Most hands-on projects at home begin with an idea, but they rarely begin with complete information. Someone needs a shelf that fits a specific wall, a storage box for a narrow space, or a small outdoor structure that doesn't match standard sizes. The object itself is simple. The difficulty often comes from the information required to build it. In everyday situations, people depend on external sources for that information. Retail stores sell finished items. Magazines publish selected plans. Online forums share partial instructions. Video tutorials show parts of a process. Each source provides a piece, but not always the full structure behind the project. Measurements may be missing. Material lists may be incomplete. Steps may assume prior experience. Over time, the process of building something becomes dependent on collecting fragments from many places. Behind this is a wider chain. Designers create plans. Publishers select and distribute them. Retailers stock finished goods based on standard dimensions. Tool manufacturers assume certain workflows. Information flows through commercial channels, editorial choices, and platform algorithms. The person in a small workshop stands at the end of that chain. They rely on what is available, not always on what is structurally complete. When any part of this chain shifts, gaps appear. A plan is removed from a website. A magazine issue goes out of print. A store stops carrying a certain type of hardware. A video skips a step that turns out to be important. The builder then spends more time adapting, estimating, or reworking than actually constructing. The physical task remains possible, but the informational structure around it becomes unstable. To reduce this dependence, people use different categories of solutions. One common approach is to work from finished products as references. A person buys an item, studies how it is built, and tries to replicate it. Structurally, this gives a physical example but no formal documentation. Measurements and internal details still need to be figured out. Another approach is relying on isolated plans. These may come from books, magazines, or downloadable files. Each plan stands on its own. This can work well for a single project. The limitation appears when moving to a different type of build. The user returns to the search process again, looking for another plan that may be formatted differently and assume different tools or methods. Some people depend mainly on video instruction. They follow along visually. This format shows motion and technique clearly. The structural challenge is that videos are linear. Going back to find a specific measurement or material requirement is less direct. Details may be spoken but not listed in a fixed place. There is also the approach of maintaining a personal workshop library. Over years, a builder collects binders, printed plans, notebooks, and reference books. This creates a local knowledge base. It reduces dependence on searching each time. The limitation is time and scale. Building such a library requires long-term accumulation, and coverage is uneven. Some project types may still be missing. Within this landscape, another format exists. It focuses on structured project documents, organized as a large, centralized collection. Instead of isolated plans or scattered references, the system is built around a database of documented builds. Each project follows a consistent format. The goal is not to present a finished product, but to document how it is constructed in a repeatable way. In this format, a user begins by selecting a project from a categorized library. The first document is usually a materials list. This lists dimensions, quantities, and types of components required. The next part is a set of layout drawings. These show how pieces relate to each other in space. Then there are step-by-step assembly sequences. These describe the order in which parts are joined, fastened, or shaped. Some projects include additional diagrams that clarify angles, joints, or internal structures that are not visible once assembled. Others provide cutting diagrams showing how raw material is divided into parts with minimal waste. In more complex builds, there may be sections covering hardware placement or simple power tool setups needed for specific steps. Structurally, this differs from a typical video or magazine plan because the information is modular and stored as reference material. The user can move between sections without losing context. The material list connects to the layout. The layout connects to the steps. Each project is treated as a documented system rather than a single demonstration. At a household scale, this format supports a different workflow. Instead of searching from scratch for each need, a person works inside an existing library. If a storage problem appears, they look in a category related to shelving or containers. If an outdoor project is needed, they move to another section. The interaction pattern becomes selection, download, review, and build. This can exist in two main forms. In one case, the user receives the documents digitally through an online member area. Files can be stored locally and printed if needed. In another case, the same collection may also be available on physical media, which functions as an offline archive. The core structure remains the same. A large set of build-from-plan systems documented in a standardized way. These guides typically include the components needed, the arrangement of those components, and the sequence of assembly. They do not replace tools or materials. They do not perform the build. They shorten the informational chain between the person and the finished object. Instead of depending on multiple external sources, the user works from a defined document set. This format may be useful for people who prefer working from written and drawn documentation rather than improvising from examples. It also fits situations where internet access is limited in the workshop area, or where consistency in plan structure reduces confusion. For someone building multiple projects over time, a standardized document format can reduce the time spent interpreting new styles of instructions. It is not a full replacement for other systems. Retail products still serve many needs. Custom design remains important for unique situations. Video demonstrations are helpful for learning techniques. Structured project documents function as an additional layer. They provide a stable reference base that supports, rather than replaces, other sources of knowledge. By organizing project information in a centralized and repeatable format, this approach reduces dependence on scattered instructions and shortens the path from idea to construction. For those researching this method, structured guides exist that document the full build format step by step, and one such format reference is commonly shared in the video description for further review.